Welcome to Passion and Profit. If you're a small business owner or solo entrepreneur, this episode is for you. It would not only help you achieve your business goals, but it will also help you enjoy the process. Let's get started.
And I think there's a huge piece in there about self-belief as well. Yes, we have some self-belief in ourselves as a maker, but at the beginning, we don't have that self-belief oftentimes about being a business owner. But pricing, something in to allow you to develop, to allow you to do some training or coaching or mentoring or whatever it is that you feel you need to help you with that self-belief is a game changer, because you get it quicker, you get the confidence quicker, and then of course you're going to sell your candles or your products for a price that is fair and reasonable, expected by your ideal customer, but also that pays you and can make you profit as well.
Passion and Profit with your host, Delmith Morales, the podcast for makers and manufacturers. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Delmith. This podcast is created by Inventora, the all-in-one inventory system for makers and manufacturers. Thank you for listening to our episode. Today, we're going to be talking about the fundamentals to attract customers with Annie Giannini. Annie is the founder of Stitchfinity, the business that taught her all the lessons about being a business owner. And now with all her experience, coaching, and mentoring skill set, she created Hustle Well brand. And Hustle Well brand is designed to help new craft business owners to start well, grow their business sustainably, and to find a community of other craft business owners to support and be supported by. So I think all of her experience and all of that Annie is creating and making with the Hustle Well is going to help us a lot. So Annie, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Delmith. It's wonderful to be invited onto a podcast to talk about what I essentially love to do. So I'm very grateful to be here.
Yeah. I read your bio and I went to your website and all of that. And I was like, wow, we need to have her on the podcast. I know that you have a lot of things that many of us can learn. Our community are pretty much handmakers. So I know that your experience is going to be very valuable for us. So to start, I would like to know how and why did you start with Hustle Well?
Well, the story starts about 12 years ago, and I was working full-time in a corporate job. I wasn't necessarily all that fulfilled in it, and I'd always had a bit of an entrepreneurial streak. And what I decided was I wanted to set up my own cross-stitch business. I didn't know a load about cross-stitch. I knew a bit. I knew I liked it. But essentially, I wanted to turn this hobby into a business, and I decided to do that with a business partner. So we got together and we started both working full-time. So it was very much evenings, weekends and holidays kind of business to start with. We were very much side hustling. We didn't know anything, I think it's fair to say, about business, and we very much learned the hard way. So we've made lots of mistakes, and I will share some of those later, perhaps, just so that people know they aren't alone in this kind of thing. But it was quite lonely as well when we first started out, and we didn't know if we were feeling the same way as everyone else. We thought maybe it was just us that were a bit clueless on running a business. We didn't know where to get the best deals, all that kind of stuff. It's sort of stuff that we learnt along the way, but took us quite a while to do so. And fast forward to 2021, we both took the opportunity. My business partner was made redundant and I left my corporate job. We both wanted to work more on Stitchfinity, and we also wanted to have our own business interests as well, but to be full-time self-employed, really. And so the business interest that I set up was Hustle Well, and it was born from that that experience we'd had 12 years ago when we set up and we had no idea what we were doing, and we would have loved some support. But at the time, there was support out there, but it was more for people who were full-time in their own business, and it wasn't focused on the side hustlers. And so many of us, are side hustlers.
Yeah.
And we wanted to make I wanted to make something that made them feel seen, and allowed them to work on their business, but do it so that it's not overwhelming and it is, sort of easier for them. So that's how Hustle Well was born. And what shape it's taken really so far is that I've been running workshops for people on things like pricing, setting up for a first big craft show. And I've done things like mentoring, helping people to start up in wholesale, helping people to prepare for a trade show. And I've also recently started a community for people to join online as well. So that's how Hustle Well started.
I enjoy listening to stories like that, because you started, like, I don't know if you have heard about what we do and how Inventora was created, but it was like that. It was like, I need something. I can't find it in the market. Well, let's start and build it for me, because I know what I want. I know what I need. And probably I'm not the only one looking for this exact same thing, right? So I love that. But I want to know, I know that you said you started without knowing anything about it. How did you start it, like creating the content? Was it like you had an experience and then you started writing or sharing it with the community? Or how did you start creating the content that you're now sharing in Hustle Well?
Well, I thought about the questions that I had when I started, and also some of the things that we got, fairly wrong. And I thought, well, if I'd had the chance to have a do-over of those things, how would I do them differently? And what would I advise people to do? And so that's where everything started for Hustle Well. And probably the main pieces of that were, when we started out, we didn't really have any idea who our ideal customer was. We just knew that we wanted to create cross-stitch kits. So we figured that perhaps our ideal customer was just somebody who liked cross-stitch. Now, there's sweary cross-stitch kits, there's cottages and kittens cross-stitch kits, there's colourful and modern cross-stitch kits, but we didn't know what we were creating. We just knew that we wanted to create cross-stitch kits. And so that was one of our big mistakes. And sort of that's where I started with Hustle Well, was, okay, well, let's think about how we can get people more interested in defining their ideal customer at a much earlier stage in their business, and not having to do what we did, which was start again halfway through your business journey.
Well, I think that's a trial and error. It's part of being a business owner, right? So,
of course, yeah.
Now that you have more experience, what can you say that are the foundations that can make a business thrive?
Well, I think the first one I've already sort of given you a spoiler on, and that is really clearly defining who your ideal customer is and what they like, what makes them feel seen, what their feelings are about things. Go really deep. I think when we actually got around to doing the exercise that we should have done when we started, we came up with maybe 4 or 5 pages of descriptive words about who our ideal customer is. And so we'd gone from this paying lip service exercise where we'd said it's somebody who likes cross stitch, and now we know that our ideal customer is female, late 30s to early 40s. She's been working in a corporate job for several years. She's gradually going up the pay scale. She's probably a people pleaser, a bit stressed out, a little bit prone to burnout, loves personal development. So we're getting this really colourful picture of who our ideal customer is, and really likes personal development. So kind of really wants to continue developing in their professional and personal life, but doesn't get the time to actually think about these things and separate themselves from what they're doing in their busy life. And so you can see this person has nothing to do with cross-stitch at the moment, but we're offering a solution to that person that is cross-stitch, and therefore they can take that me time and work on themselves. And that has made our life so much easier because we've got the language to talk to these people in terms that they understand, solving a problem that they want solving. But also, we're not in competition with any other cross-stitch business in that arena because everyone else is serving a different ideal customer with a different product or service. And so that's made life for us a lot easier because we get to focus on one type of person when we're thinking about what we're writing, what we're saying, where we're going to advertise, which magazines we want to be in. All of that kind of thing has made our marketing life very, very much easier. And that's helping our business to thrive because we've got time to spend on other stuff. And the other thing that I would really, really recommend, and it's something that actually we didn't do until late last year, so it's a really recent learning, is to think about what you actually want for your business, what you want it to look like as a business owner, how you want to work, when you want to work, how much you want to work, what do you want to be involved in and what don't you want to be involved in, what do you want to outsource to someone? Do you actually want to take on staff or don't you want that responsibility? And we asked ourselves loads of questions like this, and we came up with what our business looks like today. And that is completely different to what we thought it would look like. You know, we thought we'd want to employ staff, we thought we'd want to do wholesale because they're the natural progressions. But actually, we don't want to do that. We want to do the things that make our business really enjoyable for us.
Yeah, I know that those two key factors that you're mentioning are just essential for us to know. And I know it sometimes takes time for business owners to really realize what they want with their business and to also know their customer. I know that it's a challenge because sometimes your customer is going to change. Maybe right now, if you're selling candles, for example, maybe right now they're looking for mini candles. But then at the end of the year, they're looking for different sizes of candles or sets, for example. So you need to keep learning about your customer. I think this one is a constant in your business. But then also knowing what you want, it's key. Like having a business plan, having your goals, what do you want to reach in a month or in a year. I think that is going to help you a lot to understand where to start or what to change, correct?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I would definitely recommend doing that whole ideal customer exercise on a yearly basis, really, because, you know, like you say, seasonally things may change, but also when we had the pandemic, for example, overnight, everybody's ideal customer changed. They all had different problems that they'd never had before. And so that there was actually a real opportunity there to solve some of those problems for your ideal customer. But also, you know, where they hang out may change. So if there's a new TikTok, for example, and that's your customer group, then knowing that and making sure that you, account for that and include that in your strategy is a game changer. You don't get left behind. So yeah, I think you're right.
Absolutely. So I know this one is something that we all struggle with. And now with social media and all of that, it's so hard to keep up. So what do we need to attract customers when we are new businesses?
I'm going to be probably a little bit controversial here. I'm going to say the ideal customer thing is really, really super important. And one of the reasons that's super important is because you've got to set the right price. And I think as business owners, a lot of the time what we tend to do is entirely underprice our value. So we will put products out there because we know how much it's cost us to make them. and we know what we'd pay for them because we know how much it's cost to make them. But we don't necessarily think about what our ideal customer would want to pay for those items. We assume they'd want to pay less for them. And so we undervalue ourselves. But actually, part of what we want to do is to attract our customers with the right price. And, I often say to people, if you've got candles, if you make candles, then, do you want to make a candle that you would be able to buy in Walmart, or in our country, it would be, a home bargain shop? Or do you want to make a candle that you would buy in Harrods? Because essentially, these are the same ingredients in a candle, but the customer is different and what they want is different. And, somebody who wants to buy a candle in Harrods or Gucci or somewhere, upmarket like that, isn't going to want a budget candle. They're not going to want that. It's going to be last season for them kind of thing. So, you've got to really think about your price, and is it attractive to the people? Is it what they're expecting to pay?
Yes. Pricing is maybe a huge challenge, I must say. What did you do to figure out your pricing at the beginning? Did you change them over time, or what did you do for that?
Oh, we got it hideously wrong to begin with. We did exactly what I would not advise to do, and that is to, I think we maybe doubled the cost of what our materials were or something like that, and assumed that was profit. And yeah, we know that that's wrong, and we changed everything, and now we price in all of our fixed costs, including a labor cost, even if it's going to go to us, to make sure that we could afford to bring on people to make our products if we wanted to. We price in our fixed costs, so everything that goes on in the background of running a business, and we price in a fixed cost as well for our time in running the business, like a management fee. And that, of course, gives us a cost that we know what we've got to meet. So we know how many of these things we need to sell, which gives us a really nice target each month to be able to work towards and see, okay, well, we're on track to sell that many this month, so we're going to be able to pay ourselves, which is great, and we're going to have money in the business to be able to grow the business as well. But yeah, we got it wrong to start with, and of course what results is that you end up funding your business instead of your business funding you, and that's not what we're there for, really.
Yes, it's a challenge. I completely understand that. And sometimes you're going to get it wrong at the beginning, but that's how we learn, right? And that's...
Exactly, yeah.
And pricing, well, for me, it's something that it's a lot, because sometimes you just know how to make beautiful candles or soaps, but about financing and costs and like you said, we don't have the mentality to say, okay, I have to find a way to pay myself, because sometimes you start it's okay, we'll see if I sell some of this that I'm making, and we'll see if I have the chance to pay myself in the future. And,
exactly.
Lines
yeah.
You're saying since the very beginning, it's gonna help us be more organized and be more productive of what we do, right?
I think so. And I think there's a huge piece in there about self-belief as well. Yes, we have some self-belief in ourselves as a maker, but at the beginning, we don't have that self-belief oftentimes about being a business owner. But pricing, something in to allow you to develop, to allow you to do some training or coaching or mentoring or whatever it is that you feel you need to help you with that self-belief is a game changer. Because you get it quicker, you get the confidence quicker, and then of course you're going to sell your candles or your products for a price that is fair and reasonable, expected by your ideal customer, but also that pays you and can make you profit as well.
Yes, I love that. You don't, when you start, I think you don't have the idea of how powerful the pricing and knowing what do you want for your business is going to take you. right? Like you said, all of that is going to help you believe in yourself and have a business that is successful. And
and it'll also help you wholesale as well. I think, when we started to wholesale with Stitchfinity, we had to double our retail prices overnight. And I mean, that's hard. That's a scary move to make if you haven't priced it correctly to start with. Because you're running the risk of losing the customers that you have got at that point because you raised the price. I mean, spoiler alert, we actually sold more at the higher price than we did at the lower price. So there's a real, an eye-opener for you that actually the price does matter, but not in the way that you think it does, in the other way.
well,
people want to spend more.
Yeah, that's really good. In my experience, when I change pricing, it's always something that I doubt. It's like, no, I'm going to lose customers. I don't know if my sales are going to do well. But like you said, once you know your customer, I know that this is very important. They're going to, if they love it, they're going to keep buying it, right?
Yeah. And you'll also attract the people that do want to spend that money, that do value that. If they're not already there, then you are, you're sending out a signal to them. So
yeah, I love that. So I know that when you start, it's, I must say, easier to find your customer because everything is new. But how can we attract more customers if we are already an established business?
Yeah, great point. I mean, we did this by trying to reverse engineer who our ideal customer was based on who we were seeing coming to craft shows and buying from us, and that's a dumb and hard thing to do. Because you don't understand the nuances in that person. You can see maybe they're female and they're aged 35 to 45, but you can't see what their problems are. You can't see, what make them feel good, and you don't even know if they're buying it for themselves. So, you can't. It's really tricky to try and reverse engineer your product to a customer. But nonetheless, go through that exercise, I would say, and do it again and make sure that you've got that really well defined if you want to attract people in. And another thing is to really think about, if you've already got customers, have you maximized their potential? So have you done everything you can to serve them? Because it's much easier to convert somebody who's already buying from you into making another sale to them than it is to find new people to make sales to. And, we can be quite innovative in that. So yes, maybe we've created a pottery kit for them, but maybe they'd like you to create the pottery and they'd like to paint it, or maybe they'd like a workshop, so there's lots of ways that we can maximize the offering to our existing people. And then I think that the other thing is always be trying to find new customers and further your reach if you can do. I don't know if you've heard of it, but when I started Hustle Well, I got very into a book called Book Yourself Solid by an author called Michael Port. And it's about marketing for people who don't like marketing. And I'm a confirmed introvert, to be fair. I know I'm talking to you here today, but, given the chance, I would shy away from a conversation in a room full of people. And he offers like 6 marketing strategies that you can take. And he doesn't say do all of them and when you start out, but do some of them. And some of them are things like writing strategies. So how can you write your message and get it seen by other people, which of course for an introvert, perfect, because if you can hide behind a page or a website, you're doing all right. But again, that language is really important, and what to say and where to put it. So things like PR, sending press releases to magazines is brilliant. because it speeds the trust up of people. So if people see your product in a magazine and they trust that magazine, then the way they're thinking is, well, the magazine thinks they're recommending this, it must be good. What they don't know is that behind the scenes, you've pitched a press release to that magazine, and the magazine's gone, oh yeah, we've got a space, let's fill it with that. So, but it really helps to be able to speed the trust. And the other one I like, which is probably not as consistent with being an introvert, is I really like the speaking strategy, because if you're in front of people and you're talking to them, they can see your experience, they can hear your experience, they can quiz you if they want to. And that really speeds trust up as well. So the workshops that I do, I know that those people who've been will trust me again if they want to ask a question or they want some mentoring. And, you know, for Hustle Well, this is part of my speaking strategy. Coming on your podcast is a brilliant part of a speaking strategy, because I get to share your audience who's the same audience as I have, essentially. So I think it's important to try new things. I think it's important to do things that work well for you, but it is always a growth area, I think, unless you've been working in marketing for several years before you start a business. It's probably the thing that people say they like the least about starting a business is marketing and sales, because it's uncomfortable, but it can also be really rewarding. So
I have been talking with a lot of makers, and one thing that many of us have in common is that we are introverts. Like, we don't like to be in the camera, we're shy, and that's a huge part of marketing, like to show up in everything, in your social media and all of that, because people want to know who is in the background, right? And
yeah, I mean, it's hard. And I think one of the things that we've done that has worked really well, actually, is to put on a monthly free stitch along call. And, you know, anyone can come and we just sit and have a stitch. And of course, you know, if you're an introvert, that's brilliant because you're doing something. It's not full on. But it's turned into a really nice chat club. We get the same people along every month. We get new people along every month. And of course, it's all speeding up that trust as well. So, yeah, I think if you're an introvert, there are ways of doing it that are more comfortable. And you can find them.
Yeah, I love that. And also what you said before, that maybe you don't need to search for new customers. Like, of course, you should do that in the background every time. But how can you nurture and engage more with the current customers that you have? I think that is so powerful, because sometimes we're so overwhelmed, like say, oh, I need to have more followers and people to that can buy my products and all of that. But what are you doing with the customers that are really following you, right? Like really look for something new from you, and they're sharing all the experience in your journey. They're there. They want to listen of what you want to, of what you're saying. They're looking for new products that you're creating. So I think that's so powerful as well, because sometimes we forget that we have loyal customers, and I believe that those loyal customers are the most valuable thing of our business, because they're the ones that are there for us.
They are, and they get you. They get your journey. They want to be a part of that with you, and that's lovely. I think, you know, there are two things that really surprised me about starting a business, and one of them has been that I really, really get on well with the people who buy the things that we make, and the other has been love other small business owners. Can't get enough of networking and being with them, because that's another part of your tribe. You know, you all get each other. You know exactly what each other's going through. You all have the same ups and downs. You all have the same self-belief issues and imposter syndrome when you start out. And you all have the moments where, you're like, oh, I did this thing. And everyone's like, that's brilliant. But your family and friends, they don't always get it in the same way that another small business owner will get it.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. They are the ones that are going to understand what you're living because they are living the same things probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
So another good question that I have, then maybe it's like something controversial or I don't know, but does offering discounts and incentives are a good way to gain new customers? What do you think about that?
That's a great question. I would say it depends, just to sit on the fence with that. It depends. So it largely depends, I think, on who your ideal customer is. If your ideal customer is a discount and bargain hunter, then yeah, maybe that will bring in new customers for you. But on the flip side of that, it could devalue your brand. So if you're always known for offering a discount, people are going to wait until you offer one to buy, if that's who your ideal customer is. And that means that you're never going to be selling at a full price. You're always going to be selling at a discounted price, which eventually will devalue your brand. And, if, for example, your ideal customer is the Gucci shopper, for example, they're not going to want last season's stuff discounted. They're going to want this season's stuff at full price and let everybody know about it, right? Mm-hmm. So I think discounts are a little bit dangerous in that sense. That said, we have got a sale on at the moment, and we tend to discount our stuff if we're going to discontinue it. So if we've got an end of line or we've changed the packaging or something like that, then I think it's great to discount it to move any stock so that you've not got it sat around, being inventory when it could be money in the bank. Incentives, I think, are probably slightly different. We will occasionally offer an incentive, like, for example, free shipping over a certain amount of sales. And that can encourage people to spend more where they would just normally buy one product. If you offer free shipping, they might buy two. So incentives can be good like that. And that can also help speed, particularly the free shipping one, I think, can also help speed the trust up if somebody's never bought from you before. So a new customer might find that more appealing. I think if you're going to offer a discount, you should ask for something in return. So we offer a discount to new customers, but we want them on our email list so that we can make sales offers to them further down the line when we have things that we think will interest them. So I think that's kind of what I feel about discounts and incentives. On the one hand, they can be great for getting new customers in. But on the other hand, you might not be getting the right new customers in for your business. And that's a key consideration.
It's so tricky, right? Like, it's like maybe I want to do them, but how often should I do that? But you're right. We have to be careful when doing the discounts. I think incentives, I think the same way as you, they're really good. But the discounts, there are a thing that we have to be very careful because, like you said, we can devalue our brand, and that's something that we all want to avoid. And that's why,
absolutely,
like you said, knowing your customer and attracting the correct customer is going to let you know how often can you do them. Because sometimes, probably, you have 2 sales every year, so a lot of people keep buying from you all the year, but they're waiting for that sale to come to buy X, Y, and Z amount, right? So I think that's something that we all should consider. Probably when you start, it's not going to be something that you are going to figure out right away. It's going to take time because you need to know who your customer is, how they interact with your brand, and also your pricing and how your sales are doing. But I think you had a really good point there. And they're not something that we should avoid, we should use them like in moderation, I must say.
Definitely. I mean, I have nothing against a sale. I love to shop in a sale myself, but but I'm not your Gucci customer. So
Yeah. You have a Gucci customer, just don't do discounts. Well, thank you, Annie, so much. I just want to leave you the time to give a last piece of advice for our audience.
Okay. Well, it's going to be no surprise, I think. But I think if I had one piece of advice to give anybody starting up a handmade or craft business, it is to go deep on your ideal customer immediately. And it's not exciting, particularly. It's not a riveting piece of work, but it will save you. I think it would have saved us between 3 and 5 years to get to where we are now. I think we would have saved that time. So I think it's really worth doing. And it's also key to be able to live and breathe what they're feeling, thinking, saying. So do it. It'll be the best thing for your business. And you can thank me for it later.
Thank you so much. I think you are right. That's maybe when you hear that you're saying that advice, it sounds easy. Like say, oh yeah, I can do it. I'm gonna find my customer. But once you get started with that, when you go deep, like you're saying, it takes a lot of your time, but in the long term, it's gonna be so worth it. I am with you with that. Well, thank you, Annie, so much for being here with us. It was a great conversation. Everyone, thank you for listening. Go check out Annie and her business in the link of the show notes. I hope you find this episode helpful. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a follow, and if you like the episode, share it with your friends. Thank you for being here, and until next time. And if you're interested to learn more about Inventora and how can we help you with calculating your cost of goods in real time, visit Inventora.com.